right, I'm joined by my colleague Alex here, and we're going to break down the recently announced 2025 Chicago Marathon Elite Athlete Entry List. Alex, we've got the complete list, at least complete list for now. There's always a couple of last-minute entries in front of us, and we're going to break down the major storylines here. We're going to go through the men's field, the women's field, of course, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other storylines, including the top American runners in both the men's and the women's races as well. Right off the top, what do you think on the men's side? We'll start with the men's side. The number one storyline on the men's side in Chicago this year.
I don't want to play all my cards, Michael, but
Okay.
I think the main storyline will not be obvious until after the race. And once the race is done, it'll be clear what was the most interesting thing that happened. And I'm going to jump the gun and I'm going to say it right now. And this is my biggest story. And I don't think other people are anticipating this story as much as I am. Okay, have I built this up enough?
Wow. Just tell us.
And I'm going to steal it from you because I know this is your boy. The biggest story of the Chicago Marathon is John Korir going from one of the top runners in the world to king marathoner in the fall of 2025. That's what I think is going to happen. John Korir, to running nerds like you and I, is certainly not nobody. He won Chicago last year. He's just coming off another victory in Boston. He's the 8th fastest marathoner in history. Why I think he's going to pop off even more this time is he's voiced a hope, an interest in going under 2:01, which is rarefied air for everyone. Of course, the only athlete to go under 2:01 still has been Kelvin Kiptum, the late Kelvin Kiptum, who did it, of course, in Chicago, where he broke the record back in 2023. John Korir thinks he can get there. And I don't think it's obvious to most people who kind of follow the sport that Korir is just on the bubble between very good runner and generational talent. And I think that this race is going to make him the latter.
I'm surprised that you said that, actually. And
did I steal your thunder? I know you're
not
a career
my
guy.
thunder, but you're hitting close to home. You know how I feel about John Korir. I think that he definitely has the makeup of the next truly great generational marathon running star, as evidenced by his second half split in Chicago last year. He ran the second fastest second half of a marathon in history, and he split it in 60-25 to win the Chicago Marathon last fall. So he did a 62:19 to start things off, a nice gradual, easygoing 62:19, just to kind of, shake the legs out and get moving. And then he followed that with this furious, near sub 60-minute second half in a marathon. Think about that for a second. He's running a absolutely world-class half marathon time on the second half of a marathon. So he's got that capacity to close hard. I think the big storyline here, though, is another guy in the field that's not even on paper, the top 1, 2, or 3 guys in the field, but Jacob Kiplimo, who is running his second marathon in Chicago. He debuted in London in the spring. He is the world record holder in the half marathon and widely regarded as potentially the next great one, the guy who could get under the 2-hour barrier for a marathon on a legitimate sanctioned course. We know Kipchoge cracked the 2-hour barrier in Vienna in 2019. We also know that was a test event, so it doesn't technically count on the record books. So Kiplimo, he's Ugandan. He's still quite young, in his mid-20s, and he debuted in 2:03:37 in a pretty tough race and a highly competitive race in London in April. My question for you, Alex, and I think this is the big storyline going in, is what is going to be the first half pace that the pace setters are going to be given? What's their job going to be in Chicago for the first 21 kilometers of this race, the first 13 miles? Is it going to be set out at 59, and let's see if we can break the 2-hour barrier in Chicago? Or will it be something a little bit more careful? And what are we going to see out of Jacob Kiplimo? Is he going to go toe-to-toe with Korir? I think, the big storyline on the men's side.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe the storyline is not Kiplimo or Korir, but in fact, it's Kiplimo and Korir. Because the only thing that I'm going off of when guessing what this first half split is going to be has been like Korir's intention of going sub 201 for this marathon. And sub 201 is kind of a weird thing to say because the world record sits at 2 flat mid, so just a few seconds down. And then if you're running 2 hours and 30 seconds and change, well, then you might as well try to break the 2-hour barrier. So it's like, where does it stop? And if Korir thinks he can do that, I'm convinced that he has some workouts behind him that indicate that he can. And then, yes, Kiplimo has only run 2:03 only, but with a half marathon time that's that quick, you think that it might just be a matter of time before he chops minutes off that marathon. I mean, he's only done one. So I don't know. I don't know. Korir seems to like negative splitting, as evidenced by previous Chicago performances. So if I had to guess, I say they go out in 60-30, 201 pace. Okay, call it 201 pace.
Flat, and see what happens.
Yeah. Which would make for an incredibly exciting race. And honestly, maybe a 2-horse race from the start. We're going to get to the rest of the field soon, which is very deep and accomplished. But I don't know if any of these runners have a 60 flat or a 60-30 first half in them.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. And we should say, the field has some depth to it. So it may not just be Korir and Kiplimo and a collection of pacers going through the first half. You might see a larger field going through that first half. Timothy Kiplagat, who is training partners with Kelvin Kiptum, he's run 2:02:55, ran really well to come in second place in Tokyo in 2024. And is very experienced runner as well. Amos Kipruto, he's got a 2:03 for a personal best. Sibian Katut, who's sort of always in the mix, another Kenyan runner. He's also a 2:03 runner. Bashir Abdi, he's run 2:03. And there's a couple of 2:04 guys as well. I think another name you can circle here in terms of experience, if everything goes sideways, is Jeffrey Kamworor, who has won the New York City Marathon, who is a 2:04 runner himself. And extremely experienced in the marathon and knows how to run like a gritty, tough championship style battle. So if things go sideways, Kamworor might be the one who might swing in there. But okay, so let's move on from the overall lead field here, and we'll do predictions at the end. Let's look at a little bit, not very far down the list here, to Conner Mantz, which is, I think, going to be one of the other major storylines here in Chicago. Conner Mantz came off an incredible Boston Marathon performance where he finished 4th place, and he also ran 2:05:08 and just sort of leapfrogged into another echelon as a runner. He has said, and this is uncharacteristic for a pretty, I would say a pretty modest fellow, he has said that he's going to go after the American marathon record in Chicago. He has run well in Chicago before. Let's unpack that a little bit. I think this might become the number one storyline if that 2:01 2-hour race at the front doesn't materialize. Yeah,
I mean, this American record is getting a bit long in the tooth at this point. It was set in 2002 by Khalid Kanuchi, 2:05:38. And yeah, Mantz has run faster than that in Boston, where, of course, because it's Boston, a tip course doesn't count. So here's his chance. And I agree with you. Having Mantz be pretty bold about his intentions signals something. Mantz races like a dog, but he does pre-race press conferences kind of like a sheep. And I don't want to put him under the bus too much, because he is a very confident athlete and that shines through, but he doesn't over-promise usually. Mantz and I raced the Houston half marathon together, which is the most generous way to myself I can say this. But I remember being down in Houston and paying attention to the press conference, and he was pretty tentative about his race. He was talking about how his workouts were just okay. It was more like we'll see what happens kind of thing. And then on that day, which wasn't a perfect day, it was cold, it was a little bit windy, he broke the American half marathon record. And this was just this past January. So if he's coming in saying that he's got a shot at this record, I totally believe it. I think it's a 2-for-1 with these records because we're talking American record. The North American record is also right on Mantz's doorstep. Of course, that's set by a Canadian, Cam Levins, 205.36. And so I think it's in his wheelhouse. And there's like kind of potential for a changing of the guard type story inside of American marathoning because it's not just Mantz who's representing the States on the male start line. We have a longtime crowd favorite and one of the most accomplished marathoners in American history who hasn't quite put it together in the last few years to the point where, Michael, I'm going to out you. You asked me a couple months ago if Galen Rupp had retired, and I will out myself and say, I'm not sure, but turns out no, he's still around and he'll be racing. And I would guess that if Rupp's on the start line, it means that he can cook something up, but can he stick with Conor Mantz and run a 205? I'm not sure.
I was surprised to see the name on the start list, I have to admit. When we were in Boston, we went to a Nike shakeout run and Rupp was kind of cheerleading it at the start. And I think that's exactly when I asked you. I was like, I kind of whispered, like, as we're listening to him give a motivational talk before we went out for our Nike-led jog. And I was like, is he done? Like, I know he's been doing a lot of commentary in the last couple of years, and it's been a while since he put together a decent marathon. He ran the U.S. Olympic trials last year in Orlando, and he did sort of like, I'm sure for his high standards, not great. He did not make the Olympic squad. So, but he has won. He won the Chicago Marathon, lest we forget, in 2017. Now that'll be 8 years ago. That's a long time ago. And he is 39 years young. So is there any magic left for my contemporary, Galen Rupp?
Don't insult him.
My contemporary in age only, more or less. I'm rooting for the guy. I think it'd be really cool if he ran a quality race. I don't know what that means for him on what the terms are for a quality race for him at this stage in his career, but keep an eye out for him trying to get, under 210 and maybe sneak into that top 10 if things kind of go sideways in this race at the very, very front. A couple other names to throw out there on the American side that are of interest and internationally as well. CJ Albertson, who we had to look this up. We're like, how many marathons has CJ Albertson run so far this year? And he has run
3.
Was it?
It's
3.
It's been a quiet year for CJ.
Yeah, he's like a guy who averages like what? The over under on CJ Albertson running marathons in a year is 5.5, usually set at 5.5.
Yeah.
So he'll be running at least his 4th marathon. Who knows? You could tuck one in beforehand. And he always does quite well, particularly in the American marathons. He's pretty competitive. So keep an eye out for him. And we should say a top Canadian in the field, Rory Linkletter, who has also said that he is going to go after the Canadian marathon record, which you'd mentioned previously, which happens to also be the North American marathon record. So it's better than the American record. So we will keep an eye out for Rory Linkletter and Conor Mantz in the same group, pacing it out, trying to run 2:05 something or rather in Chicago.
Yeah. And let's take Rory's threat somewhat seriously because he's run his best time so far in Boston at 2:07. So he's in the same situation as Mantz. You just think that he likely has something faster. People tend to run faster in Chicago than in Boston. And we're recording this on, is today Monday? Today's Monday?
Correct.
Yes. Yesterday was Sunday. Okay, I'm locating myself. Rory Linkletter beat Cam Levins at the Canadian Half Marathon Championships, outkicked him at the line. And so who knows?
Who knows? It wasn't a particularly lightning fast course, and the times reflected that. But that'll be an interesting race to watch in Chicago as well. Like, so the men's field's got like a few different really dynamic storylines. Let's pivot to the women's field now, and I think The challenge with the women's field is that the number one storyline, at least right now, we're recording this on August 18th, so we're still a couple of months out from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
But the number one storyline right now on the women's side, and maybe overall in the entire race, unfortunately, is that kind of dark cloud hanging over Chicago from last year with Ruth Chepngetich provisional ban for doping-related infractions. She has her world record, which was ratified.
Yep.
So it means it counts. It's in the history books, at least for now. And her win in Chicago, at least for now, as of August 18th, still count. So all she's been suspended for is recent, very, very, very recent performances and moving forward. So she's not obviously going to be back in Chicago. She's facing between a 2 and a 4 year ban at this stage. We don't know the outcome of the investigation yet. We don't know any of these details, but man, this is like hanging over this race.
Mm-hmm.
If I feel like as it stands right now, if we were to go into Chicago with what we know now, which is not a whole lot about that, the whole press conference a couple of days before the race, usually on the Friday, will be completely overtaken by questions about that doping suspension and that performance and what's going on with it and whether or not Chicago has any power to rescind that win and that world record and what their conversations are with world athletics and so on and so forth. It sinks the event if there's no further information.
Totally. I think it totally takes the wind out of the sails of the entire women's field. It sucks, really. There's no sugarcoating it. The men's field is one of the best that Chicago has ever put together. And the women's field has to contend with this dark cloud of news. And it's even a psychological thing. Like you look at the women's start list and you can't get that figure, that number 209 out of your head. And it makes all the other times look slow, which is ridiculous, but that's how it is. The fastest seed is about almost 7 minutes slower than the time that Chepngetich ran last year. And so it's like
7 minutes. That's insane. That's an insane amount of time.
And it is what it is. And then you have to, like, you compare the women's field and the men's field, and it just seems like everything has lined up on the men's side of things. And so the challenge for these leading athletes on the women's side will be to come into the race and keep like a positive demeanor and a lot of motivation at an event that likely on the women's side will feel a little bit doom and gloom this year.
And so this is a Nike race. It's Nike's only major marathon that it heavily sponsors, right? Where it shows out, and it's a big Nike weekend. We've covered this event. I've been to Chicago multiple times, both as a runner and also as a journalist covering the event. So kind of a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff for those who are not familiar. The shoe company that is associated most heavily with the event, and we're talking, so Boston is Adidas. London and New York are both New Balance now, and Chicago is Nike, and Sydney is Asics, and Tokyo is
It must be Asics. Might be Adidas. I'm
anyway,
ad-libbing here. Yeah.
The shoe company involved with the race and sponsoring the race has an incredible amount of power within that race and influence over who in the elite field is going to show up, and they want to present their best athletes. I'm really surprised that we're not seeing Sifan Hassan or another really top tier Nike athlete in Chicago. Hassan has run in Chicago in the past and won and done really well. She is a fascinating figure and a personality, and the type of person in this situation you'd love to insert into the field to kind of take away from that negativity of the Chepngetich situation looming over this event. And she's doing Sydney. She's not doing this race. I was really surprised by that. In her stead, we have really what I would categorize as a pretty wide open field. Let's go through what I would say there's like 3 top contenders for the women's field.
Yeah. So we have seeded fastest is Magertu Alemu of Ethiopia. She's no stranger to Chicago. She finished third there in 2023. And 2023 was really her year. She finished second in London as well. So the thing with her is, we didn't see her all that much in the last year. Will she be able to come back and find that form? Her competitor, Hawi Faysa of Ethiopia, is a little bit more, is doing better on the what have you done for me lately front. She was third in Tokyo this year, so already podiumed at a major marathon this year. She's kind of interesting because she's coming from the track. She was an Ethiopian champion in the 5,000 and 10,000 meters, Ethiopia being a very hard country to win gold in, and so she has some pretty major wheels. And then there's Irene Cheptai of Kenya, who's also run a 2:17 high, and she's also a former bronze medalist at the Chicago event. For her, it was last year. And so this is like a trio of athletes who have some pretty recent, super strong performances at world majors. And the fact that they're all seated close to each other is somewhat promising for it to be a really good race. If anything, this might be an event to propel one of these athletes to a little bit more stardom, because despite them finishing on the podium before, neither of them, I would say, are quite yet household names in America, and this could be a really good chance for them. And I'm thinking that it will mostly be a 3-horse race. There's a fun American race here. Same deal there. There are 4 Americans seated quite close to each other, and I'm guessing that this may form a pack. But if there are 7 minutes between Chepngetich and Alemu, there's another about 7 minutes between that top trio and our Americans in the race. So let's name our 4. I'd say there's like 4 American contenders for the American crown.
Yeah.
Lindsay Flanagan, she had a breakthrough at this race last year. We know that she knows how to race Chicago. She's got a best of 2:23.31. There's Natasha Rogers, who's also a 2:23 marathoner. Her PB comes from earlier this year, so she's in good form. Gabby Rooker, the American, who also set a PB in Chicago last year, 2:24. And then perhaps the best known of the 4, Dakota Popahn. She, I think, quickly became a fixture in the American distance running scene for her 1-2 punch, first running super well at the American trials, somewhat coming out of nowhere to finish third, making the Olympic team in 2024, and then completely delivering at the Olympics with an 11th place finish, which to me was about as high as anyone would have ranked her for that race. So she's a clutch performer. I think at this point it's going to be, Flanagan, Rogers, Rooker, and Popahn battling for that American crown, and then on another echelon, Alemu, Faysa, and Cheptai battling for the overall win.
Yeah, Popahn got a lot of screen time during the Olympics last year. I just remember she was surging at one point, and she was kind of up in the mix for a while. And she is a charismatic figure. She's from Minnesota. She's from the Midwest. And has been at it for a long time. She's run Chicago before. I feel like, breakthrough number 1 for her obviously was making that Olympic squad and running so well in Orlando in the U.S. Olympic trials at the beginning of 2024. And then obviously breakthrough number 2 being performing, almost cracking the top 10 in the Olympic marathon, which is amazing. Be interesting to see if she's able to take sort of that next step towards, like, in terms of just time and performance at a major, getting close to that 220 barrier and seeing if she can get, in the top 10, top 8, top 6 even, because Americans tend to do really well in Chicago, right? So, okay. Before we get into our way too early predictions, one last storyline I've got for you.
Okay.
It's and you'll like this one.
Ooh.
It's a shoe storyline.
Ah.
So, October 2023, 2 Chicagos ago, Nike rolled out a prototype of the Alphafly 3. And then Kelvin Kiptum promptly took those Alphafly 3s and nearly lit them on fire running so fast and set the world record and made it look easy and totally crushed and ran a 2 hours, 35 second marathon. And that shoe quickly became the most desirable shoe on the planet, and everyone was talking about it. Then it was released in the spring of 2024 and instantly sold out. And then each batch instantly sold out after that. This is a Nike race, Chicago. This is the perfect platform for them to launch a new Alphafly or a new world-beating hyper shoe, as we've been desperately trying to will that term into existence. We're still going to keep at it. I will make a bold prediction here, which is that I think Nike's going to release their next crazy super shoe in October at Chicago. I think it will be on Jacob Kiplimo's feet for sure, because he is their top Nike athlete.
Yep.
Alemu is also a Nike athlete, I believe. So she may have a pair also, but who knows? In terms of like A-lister top Nike athletes, that's why I was wondering why Sifan Hassan wasn't in the mix for this race, because she would have been the perfect athlete to roll out with those new Alphafly 4s or whatever they're going to call them. That's my bold predictions. We're going to see a new super shoe from Nike in Chicago.
I'm not even sure that's a bold prediction. I'd be surprised if Nike didn't do that. I completely agree with you. I also think Nike probably feels the pressure just looking at this. I mean, and okay, these things were probably decided before the start list came out, but if not, there's a lot of pressure on Nike. As you said, Chicago is a Nike event, and they are at a very strong risk of not winning the men's race with John Korir being there as an ASICS athlete. And so what Nike, and we know that John Korir is going to be wearing one of ASICS's new 2025 shoes, which now are much newer than the Nike Alphafly 3, which, as you said, came out 2 years ago. So, yeah, we know that there are patents filed for weird, funky, cool new Nike shoes. We don't know much more, but we know they're filed. What better time than Chicago 2025 to trial these shoes? I think it would be a missed opportunity if they didn't. And I think of this super shoe era in like two modes. You know, when you think of world history and like there was wartime and there was peacetime, with the super shoe era, there are also two time frames, and one of them is like Nike dominant and the other one is non-Nike dominant. And currently we're in a somewhat long-standing, I would say, non-Nike dominant era, with the latest new super shoes coming out not being Nike shoes. It's kind of their turn to strike. So I would be totally surprised if Kiplimo didn't have something weird and unknown on his feet.
And Connor Mantz as well, I should say. Also a Nike athlete, and that would make perfect sense to have those shoes on his feet as well. Like, what better marketing material than that, than to run maybe a first legit sub 2 hour marathon in history, or at least a world record perhaps, and then also take the American and maybe North American record as well with your athlete and your new shoe. Okay, let's get into way too early predictions here. Who wins the men's race?
John Korir. I'm sticking with Korir. I think Kiplimo might be the best marathoner out of all of them when all is said and done, but he's young in his career. Korir and Korir
See what you did there?
Is ready to strike.
I'm gonna go Jacob Kiplimo. I'll take the other top guy in the field. I think that he is going to run 2:01 something, and it's going to be super exciting. But I think it's going to be pretty close. I think they're going to battle it out. Okay, so next question, and I just gave away my answer for. Do you think the world record will be broken on the men's side?
No.
So you do not think there will be a sub 2 hour race either? No, of course not.
I don't think so. I think that's a big ask. I think they come tantalizingly close. I think Korir runs something like 2:52, and that just ignites a bunch of excitement, but nothing yet. We're going to have to wait another year.
I think, I said I think they'll run around 2:01, so I don't think they'll do that either. Do you think someone will break the American men's record?
An American does, yes.
Yes.
Sorry. I think, I guess, yeah, that was implied, right? Yeah, I think Mantz is there. I think if Boston was any other course on that day, on that Boston day, if he was running any other race that was legal, he would have had that record in the bag. And he's had only another season, another summer of training. If he's been healthy, which I have no reason to believe he wasn't, he's going to get it.
Do you think the North American men's marathon record will be broken?
Well, there's only 2 seconds difference. So unless Connor Mantz runs 2:05:37, there
which would be just crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's going to have a new North American record. And what would be crazy, it would be if Rory Linkletter actually beat Connor Mantz. It's hard to bet against Mantz because he's so dominant, but I know that Rory's very fit and he could make some crazy noise as well.
I think Connor Mantz will break the American and North American records. I think he will run 2:05, close to 2:05 flat, like 2:05 low. 2:05:08 is what I will say.
Okay.
There's my random number. Okay, the women's field. Who is going to win the women's race?
I think I give it to Hawi Faysa, actually, who's seated second, but who's been on a bit more of a tear lately. Third in Tokyo. She looked great. She has that sprinting gene in her. She's comfortable over 5,000 meters. If it comes to a last kilometer sprint, which it might, that's what tends to happen when you have a few athletes roughly around that same seat time, then that will favor the sprinter. So Faysa of Ethiopia is my pick.
I'll take Alemu. Right. I think she's a good performer. I think she had a tough go. She was selected for the Olympic team last year by Ethiopia and ran in Paris, then DNF'd at like around the 25K mark, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just going off memory here. And she is the best runner on paper in the field. Lest we forget, she won Valencia at the end of last year. So she snuck that one in. Sometimes Valencia doesn't get the credit that it's due. Valencia is a very comparable event to Chicago. Flat, fast. It's all about records. It's all about running as quickly as you possibly can. And so she's got a good performance relatively recently. And I think that she's going to win the women's race. Okay, who do you have for, neither of them are going to come anywhere close to world record time, and world record time. Who knows what the world record is anymore? I have no idea what will it be pushed back to 2:11? We don't know yet. As of recording this, we don't know. So who's going to be the top American in the field? This is a trickier one.
It's a trickier one. I'm going to go with Natasha Rogers. I'm thinking the same. For me, it's about trends. I'm thinking about trends. She's been trending up. Her best time was from earlier this year, 2:23. I think she still has potential to get faster. It's tough to bet against Popahn because she's a gamer, but I know that Rogers can bring it in Chicago, and I know that she's fit this year. I just feel like her stock is high right now, and so I'm going with her.
I'm tempted to go with Popahn as well. I think she will do well. I think she will improve her personal best modestly. I think Lindsay Flanagan will get another little bump into her personal best. I think she will crack the top 10 again. I think she'll run like 2:22 high or something like that, and she'll be the top American. That's my pick. I'm just, it's so early. It's so hard to tell. We're not getting a whole lot of feedback yet. We've not explored various Instagram accounts and YouTube channels to see how everyone's training has been going yet. So there's still a lot of time left to go. But there are predictions. I think Chicago is going to be one for the ages, certainly on the men's side, with potential for world records, a world record, potential for an American record, potential for a North American record. And it's a wide open field on the women's side as well. So we will have complete coverage. We will be in, Alex, we're going to be in Chicago. We're going to be doing a whole lot of different stuff in Chicago. We're going to do a live watch along show as we've done with with the majors already in the last year. And so keep an eye out on our channels for that, and make sure to follow us on Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more stuff like this, and our newsletter. You can find out, we'll put it in the show notes. Got a question for us, or a thought, or a take, you think that we don't know what we're talking about and you want to throw in your picks, you can email us as well. Email us at podcast@marathonhandbook.com, and we respond to every email. And we also do we do a mailbag episode every quarter on the podcast as well. All right, Mr. Sear, thank you very much, and we will talk soon.
See you later.